The Fear of Loss by Jessica Petrolia. I sat on the love seat, warmed by the strong rays of light trickling in through the window. I drew large flowers on the back in front of me that I was designing for the upcoming Relay for Life that was being held over that weekend. I glanced at my mom. She was still concentrating on her own bag in her lap, crafting some sort of fishing pole with a purple crayon. I looked at my dad. He was still sprawled out on the couch, fast asleep. I returned to my drawing. The wind whistled through the window and startled me. It wasn't that warm out, due to the wind constantly blowing, but it was quite humid, although it had a certain pleasantness to it as well. My bag flew a few feet due to the sudden gust before I caught it in midair. "Nice catch," my mom commented, looking up from her work. I was just about to make a snarky reply when I heard the couch begin to buckle. My head snapped to the sound. My eyes widened as I found the source of the noise. My dad shuddering and convulsing on the couch. My eyes locked on him, trying to figure out what was going on. My body was like my eyes, locked in position, crayons still pressed to the paper. I vaguely heard my mom gasp over the sound of blood roaring in my ears, and it shocked me into reality. I had taken a babysitting course with the Red Cross a few weeks before, and I recognized what was happening a few seconds after. He was having a seizure. I sprung into action, removing any sharp objects from the surrounding area, and telling my mom what was going on. "I know," she said with a bit of a tone. I ignored it and looked at my dad again. He was still shuddering convulsively, and his eyes rolling back into his head, with only the white showing. Some pinkish liquid was swelling from his mouth, a mixture of blood and saliva. I shuddered just looking at him. I ran to get a towel and a phone. I tossed the towel to my mom and dialed 911, then handed the phone to my mother. Tears started to form into my eyes, but I held them back. My hands were shaking so bad that, even trying to hold them still at my sides, they jumped like jackhammers. Terror flared within me, while worry and dread were secondary emotions, but they still planted their evil seed and took hold. The humidity, so pleasant before, suddenly became a huge weight on my shoulders. "Go wait outside for the ambulance," my mom said. I could hear the tears in her voice, but she wouldn't look at me. She was probably trying to look strong. It didn't matter, though. I knew we were both scared. Our cat, Boo, who had been lying on my dad when he began to tremor, returned now and stuck his nose in my dad's hand that had fallen off the couch with his movements. I bit my lip to hold the tears back. I grabbed my shoes and laced them up. When I opened the front door to go outside, our other two cats, Sandy and Oreo, rushed out. They always seemed to know just when the most opportune time to do this was. "Boys, come back in," I chided, my voice breaking. Its sound was hollow and empty, just like how I felt behind the anxiety that continued to course through my veins. I tried to collect the cats, but I was so unstable on my feet that I fell over several times and smashed my chin into the soft spring ground. The tears almost sprang free then, but I managed to fight them back. I finally herded them into the house and locked them, along with Boo, in my sister's bedroom and went back outside. Momentarily, I heard sirens coming up 4 Mile Road. I thought it would be a relief, but it didn't make any difference to how scared I was, because of how common it is to hear sirens around here. I stood, clutching one of the posts on our front porch, and tried not to fall in a faint. When I saw the familiar shape of an ambulance turn on our road, it was a bit more of a feeling of relief and a comfort to see it, and confirm it was here to help. They pulled into our driveway and jumped out. One rushed into the house, while the other went to the back of the truck and grabbed a gurney. Per medical's instructions, I brought him to my dad. He'd stopped shaking now, and my mom was kneeling, holding his hand. I bit my lip and stood aside, letting the medics work. Now my father was semi-conscious and was staring at the medics in confusion. They tried to carry him to the gurney, but being the stubborn man he is, he wanted to walk there. He ended up being half carried, half dragged to the gurney, and they slid him in the back of the truck. "Jesse, grab your binder," my mom commanded me. "I'm taking you to your grandma's." She then turned to the medics. "Where are you taking him?" "Butterworth," one replied, climbing into the truck. I spent the rest of my night at my grandma's. I worried, I wrote, and finally cried. It took until the next day after my grandma dropped me off at school that I got any information as to what happened. I was still shaking up and I could barely focus on school. My father didn't get out of the hospital for 2 weeks, and during that time I only got to see him once. He's okay now, though. It hasn't happened again, and hopefully won't ever happen again. You might wonder what the story of the lesson is. Well, I'll tell you. In those hours that I didn't know what was happening to him, I didn't know if he was going to die or not, and I got very worried. So the lesson is, you don't know what you have until you almost lose it. Also, don't take things for granted. That is all.